Captain Jake Morrison stared at the radar screen in disbelief. 12 unknown objects had just appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were moving fast, but their flight pattern was strange. The ships wobbled like drunk birds trying to stay in the air. Captain, we're getting signals from those ships said Ryan Kelly from the communication station. His voice was tight with worry. It sounds like distress calls. Morrison rubbed his tired eyes. He had been commanding the Earth Defense Force ship New Horizon for 3 years. In all that time, the biggest excitement had been chasing space pirates and checking on mining stations. Now, something was happening that would change everything. Can you understand what they're saying? Morrison asked. Ryan shook his head. It's not like any language I've ever heard. The computer is trying to find patterns, but it's going to take time. Dr. Linda Hayes looked up from her science station. Her face was pale. Captain, I'm reading some very strange energy signatures from those ships. They're not using any technology we know about. The bridge fell silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. Everyone knew what this meant. For over 100 years, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now, they had their answer, and it was coming toward them in damaged ships. Red alert, Morrison said quietly. All hands to battle stations, but nobody fires unless I give the order. The New Horizon's crew moved quickly to their positions. They had trained for this moment, but training felt very different from the real thing. Morrison watched the alien ships get closer. They were beautiful in a strange way, made of what looked like crystal and metal mixed together, but they were clearly in trouble. Some had holes in their sides, and all of them were leaking some kind of glowing gas. Captain called out. Dr. Patricia Ward from the medical bay, I'm detecting life signs on those ships, but they're weak and getting weaker. Morrison made a decision that would change human history. Ryan, keep trying to talk to them. Linda, scan their ships, but don't do anything that might seem threatening. Patricia, get ready to help injured beings. I don't care what species they are, sir. Shouldn't we wait for orders from Earth Command? Asked his second officer, Lieutenant Paul Johnson. Morrison looked at the young man. Paul, those ships are dying out there. If we wait for bureaucrats to make decisions, we might be looking at the first alien species we've ever met, and they'll all be dead. I'm not letting that happen on my watch. Ryan suddenly got excited. Captain, I think I'm getting somewhere. The computer found some mathematical patterns in their signals. It's basic stuff, like showing them we understand numbers and physics. Good, send them our basic math back. Show them we're intelligent. For the next hour, Ryan worked to build a simple way to talk with the aliens. It was slow and difficult, but they started to understand each other. The alien ships contained people called Zephyrians. They were running away from something terrible. Linda studied the alien ships with every sensor they had. Captain, these beings are incredible. Their ships use some kind of crystal technology that I don't understand, but the crystals are dying, and that's killing the ships. What do they need? Morrison asked. From what I can tell, they need a specific type of electromagnetic radiation, something their home star used to provide, but their crystals can't make it anymore. Dr. Ward joined the conversation from the medical bay. Captain, I'm reading life signs that are failing fast. These people are starving, but not for food. They need energy, pure energy. Morrison Looked at his crew, they were all young, all dedicated, and all looking to him for answers he didn't have. But one thing was clear in his mind: these beings needed help, and humans were the only ones who could give it. Ryan asked them if our sun can provide the energy they need. It took 20 minutes of back and forth communication, but the answer came back positive. Earth's sun could save the Zephyrians if they could get close enough. Captain Linda said, "I'm detecting something else. Long range sensors show more ships heading this way, big ships, and they're not broadcasting distress signals." Morrison felt his stomach drop. The Zephyrians weren't just refugees, someone was chasing them. Ryan got more information from the aliens. The Zephyrians were part of a group called refugees. They had been forced to leave their home because other aliens, part of something called the galactic hegemony, said they were dangerous. The hegemony destroyed worlds where people like the Zephyrians lived. They're asking for sanctuary. Ryan said, "They want to know if we'll protect them." Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting for his decision. Earth Command was too far away to ask for help. The pursuing ships would arrive in hours, not days. If he was going to help these people, he had to decide now. "Linda, how many Zephyrians are on those ships?" "About 8,000, Captain. Men, women, and children. 8,000 lives hanging in the balance." Morrison thought about his own daughter back on Earth, safe in her school. These Zephyrian children were dying in space, running from enemies who wanted to destroy them for being different. Ryan, tell them yes to them. Earth will give them sanctuary. Captain Paul said carefully, "Earth Command is going to be very unhappy about this decision." Morrison smiled grimly. "Paul, sometimes you have to do what's right instead of what's safe. Those are people out there, not just aliens, and people don't deserve to die because someone else thinks they're dangerous." The next few hours were busy beyond belief. The New Horizon escorted the Zephyrian ships toward Earth while Linda and Patricia worked with the aliens to understand their needs. The Zephyrians were beautiful beings, tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of living crystal. They could absorb energy directly from stars and use it to power amazing technologies, but they were also gentle people. Their ships had no weapons. They survived by working with their environment, not by fighting it. The idea that anyone would see them as dangerous seemed crazy to Morrison. As they got closer to Earth, the Zephyrian ships began to glow brighter. The Earth's sun was feeding them, bringing them back to life. Children who had been too weak to move started playing again. Adults who had been dying began to sing in voices that sounded like wind chimes. Captain Ryan said, "They're asking how they can repay us." Morrison looked at the beautiful crystal ships flying alongside his vessel. "Tell them that helping people who need help is what humans do. They don't owe us anything." But even as he said it, Morrison knew their troubles were just beginning. Hegemony ships were still coming, and Earth was about to become involved in a galactic conflict it never asked for. Dr. Ward came to the bridge with a report. "Captain, I've been working with their healers. These people are amazing. They can manipulate electromagnetic fields like we manipulate tools, but they only use their abilities to help and build, never to hurt, and someone wants to destroy them for that." Morrison asked, "It seems so, from what I can understand the galactic hegemony, thinks any species with unusual abilities is a threat to universal order. Morrison shook his head. It was the same old story, just on a bigger scale. Throughout human history, people had been afraid of others who were different. Now it seemed the same fear existed among the stars. Well, Morrison said, they picked the wrong species to run to. Humans have always been good at protecting the underdog. As the New Horizon led the Zephyrian fleet toward Earth, Morrison knew he had started something that would change both species forever. He just hoped it would change them for the better. 3 months had passed since the Zephyrians first arrived at Earth. Admiral Helen Cross stood at the window of the new Galactic Relations building in Geneva, watching the morning sun reflect off the crystal structures. In the Australian desert, the refugee camp had grown into something beautiful. The Zephyrians had built their new homes, using their natural abilities, creating buildings that looked like living gemstones. But the Zephyrians were no longer alone. Cross turned back to her desk where reports from around the solar system waited for her attention. In the past month, 3 more refugee fleets had arrived. Each group brought stories of the same enemy and the same fear. The galactic hegemony was hunting down anyone who was different. Her computer buzzed with an incoming message from Commander Paul Johnson. He was leading a patrol near Jupiter when something impossible happened. Admiral, you need to see this. Johnson's voice came through the speakers. His ship, the Terra Nova, had encountered the strangest refugees yet. We're dealing with beings that can disappear and reappear at will. They exist in our reality and some other reality at the same time. Cross leaned forward in her chair. Explain. Commander, they call themselves Athethurans. They look like clouds of gas with lights inside, but they can become solid when they want to. Half their ships are in normal space and half are somewhere else entirely. It's making our sensors go crazy. Dr. Stephen Lewis walked into Cross's office just as Johnson was describing the new aliens. Lewis had become Earth's leading expert on refugee species technology. His hair had turned gray from working 18-hour days trying to understand how alien science worked. Admiral, I've been studying the patterns, Lewis said, sitting down heavily. Every species that's come to us has abilities that break the rules of physics as we know them. The Zephyrians can turn sunlight into any form of energy they need. These new Athethurans exist in multiple dimensions. It's not random. Cross nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. Someone is targeting specific types of beings. Before Lewis could respond, her secretary announced that President Margaret Stone was calling. The president had created the Galactic Relations Division after the Zephyrian arrival, putting Cross in charge of humanity's first alien policy. Helen, we have a problem, President Stone said. As soon as the call connected, a massive ship just appeared at the edge of our solar system. It's not damaged like the refugee ships. This one looks like it's built for war. Cross felt her heart sink. They had all known this moment would come. The hegemony had found Earth. Within hours, Cross was aboard the New Horizon with Captain Morrison. They were heading out to meet the alien warship. Morrison looked older than his years. The stress of being humanity's first contact specialist had aged him quickly. Any word from our new friends? Morrison asked. Cross checked Her notes, the Athethurans are hiding. In their alternate dimension, the Zephyrians are powering up their ships. But they still don't have any weapons. The Mandari refugees we picked up last. Weak or staying quiet, they're telepathic. Abilities make them nervous around. Aggressive species, as they approached. The alien vessel, Cross was amazed by. Its size, the ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Its hull was black and covered with strange symbols that seemed to move on their own. Incoming transmission, announced Ryan Kelly, who had been promoted to Morrison's communications officer permanently. They're speaking standard galactic language. The computer can translate it. A holographic image appeared on the bridge. The being standing before them was tall and covered in scales that shifted color as it moved. Its eyes were cold and calculating. I am Ambassador Zarkith of the Dominion Fleet. I speak for the galactic hegemony. Council, you will surrender all deviant species currently harboring on your world and surrounding space. Cross stepped forward. I am Admiral Helen Cross, representing Earth and humanity. We don't recognize the authority of your hegemony in our solar system. The alien scales turned a darker shade of red. Your species is new to galactic politics. You do not understand the danger these deviants represent to universal stability. What we understand, Morrison said, is that you're chasing refugees who have done nothing wrong except be different from you. Zarkith made a sound that might have been laughter. Different. These species can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. The Zethurians can control electromagnetic energy directly. The Athethurans can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Mandari can read thoughts across vast distances. Such abilities threaten the natural order. Cross looked at Morrison. She had read the reports about the refugee abilities, but hearing them listed like that made her realize something important. Each species had gifts that could be incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands, but the refugees had never used their abilities to harm anyone. Your refugees have been model citizens, Cross said. They've helped us advance our technology and science. They've shared their knowledge freely. They work in our hospitals and schools. These are not dangerous people. That you cannot see the threat proves your species lacks wisdom, Zarkith replied. Ancient prophecies speak of a catalyst species that will unite these deviant abilities and bring chaos to the galaxy. The hegemony maintains order by preventing such unification. Dr. Lewis stepped forward from where he had been listening quietly. Ambassador, what if your prophecies are wrong? What if these abilities are meant to help, not harm? The alien's eyes focused on Lewis with sudden interest. You speak of things beyond your understanding. Human, the cosmic purity doctrine has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Species that develop reality-altering abilities are quarantined or eliminated before they can spread their influence. Eliminated. Morrison's voice was hard. You mean murdered? We prefer the term cosmic cleansing. Zarkith said without emotion. It is necessary for the greater good. Cross felt sick to her stomach. The hegemony wasn't just prejudiced against different species. They were systematically committing genocide across the galaxy. We will not surrender our refugees, Cross said firmly. If you want to take them, you'll have to go through us. Zarkith's scales shifted to a bright orange color. Your species has existed for barely a moment in galactic time. You have no understanding of the forces. You are protecting, but we are not. Unreasonable, you have one rotation of your planet to reconsider. After that, we will take what we came for with or without your cooperation. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Well, Morrison said. Finally, that went better than I expected. Cross stared at him. How do you figure that? They gave us 24 hours. Instead of just attacking, that means they're not sure they can win easily. Over the next day, Earth became a hive of activity. The refugee species worked together with human engineers to prepare defenses. Cheney, a brilliant engineer who had been working with Zapirian crystal technology, made a breakthrough that surprised everyone. Admiral, you need to see this, Chen said over the communication system. He was in the Australian colony with the Zapirians. We've figured out how to combine human technology with Zapirian energy crystals. The results are incredible. Cross-watch the video feed as Chen demonstrated a new type of power system. It was smaller than anything humans had ever built, but it generated 10 times more energy. The Zapirians had taught them to think about power in completely new ways. That's not all, Chen continued. The Athathorans have been sharing their knowledge about dimensional physics. We're starting to understand how they move between realities, and the Mandari have been helping us develop new communication systems that work faster than light. Cross realized what was happening. In just 3 months, contact with refugee species had advanced human technology by decades, not through conquest or theft, but through friendship and cooperation. Dr. Lewis appeared on another screen from his laboratory. Admiral, I've been analyzing all the refugee species' abilities. I think I understand what the hegemony is really afraid of. Tell me, Cross said. Each species has a piece of something larger. The Zafarans control energy. The Athathorans manipulate dimensions. The Mandari work with consciousness itself. Separately, they're powerful, but if they work together, they could chain everything. Cross finished. Exactly, and humans seem to be the catalyst that helps them cooperate. We're not just protecting refugees, Admiral. We might be helping to create something that could transform the entire galaxy. Cross looked out at Earth, where 4 different alien species were working together with humans to build something new. For the first time in months, she felt hope instead of fear. Then we better make sure the hegemony doesn't stop us, she said. The countdown to Zarkith's deadline continued, but Earth was no longer the same planet that had first encountered the Zapirians. They had become something more, something the galaxy had never seen before. Whether that would be enough to survive what was coming remained to be seen. Hegemony fleet arrived exactly 24 hours after Ambassador Zarkith's deadline. 12 massive warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, their weapons already charging for battle. Captain Lisa Parker gripped the command chair of her ship, the Defiant, as alarms blared throughout the bridge. 6 months ago, she had been commanding cargo runs to Mars. Now she was leading humanity's most advanced warship against an alien invasion fleet. Captain, I'm reading weapon signatures unlike anything in our databases, reported her science officer, Lieutenant Dan Brooks. These ships are designed to fight enemies with the same abilities as our refugees. Parker nodded grimly. The hegemony had been hunting species like the Zapirians and Athethurans for thousands of years. They knew exactly how to kill beings with extraordinary abilities. Status on our hybrid systems, Parker asked. All systems green, replied Chief Engineer Alex Bennett over the communication system. The Zaffirin crystals are fully charged and the Atherian phase drives are operational. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The past week had been a miracle of cooperation. Human engineers, Zetherian crystal shapers, Etherium, dimension walkers, and Mandari Thoughtwa weavers had worked together to create something the galaxy had never seen. The Defiant was no longer just a human ship. It was a fusion of 4 different species technologies. Admiral Cross's voice came over the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is command. The enemy fleet consists of representatives from 4 hegemony species. Asterian battle cruisers with plasma weapons, hive mind swarm fighters, Voidorn energy beings, and Nexus collective cyber warfare ships. They've brought everything they have. Parker looked around her bridge. Half her crew was human, but the other half came from the refugee species. Velter, a Mindari with pale blue skin and large dark eyes, sat at the telepathic coordination station. 2 Athethurans, looking like controlled clouds of gas, operated the dimensional systems. A Zaffirin named Krydal worked at the energy management console, her crystal-like skin glowing as she channeled power through the ship. Captain Belter said in her soft voice, I can sense the emotions of the enemy crews. They are afraid but also determined. They truly believe we are a threat to galactic peace. Maybe we are, Parker said. Maybe we're a threat to their kind of peace. The battle began when the Asterian flagship, a kilometer-long monster covered in weapon ports, fired the first shot. A beam of plasma streaked toward the human colony ship Sanctuary, which was carrying Zaffirin families to safety, but the plasma beam never reached its target. 3 Athethurran ships phased into its path, existing just enough in normal space to absorb the energy, then shifted into their alternate dimension to disperse it harmlessly. All ships engage, Admiral Cross commanded. Parker's ship leaped forward, moving faster than any human vessel ever had. The Zaffirin crystals provided enormous power, while the Athethurran drives let them slip between dimensions to avoid enemy fire. Dan, target their lead, Parker ordered. Let's show them what cooperation looks like. The Defiant's main weapon was something that shouldn't have been possible. Human targeting systems guided energy channeled by Zaffirin crystals through dimensional rifts opened by Athethurran technology, while Mendari telepaths coordinated the attack with perfect precision. The resulting beam didn't just hit the Astran flagship, it struck the ship across 3 different dimensions simultaneously. The enemy vessel's shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, simply couldn't handle an attack that came from multiple realities at once. Sections of the ship's hull began to phase in and out of existence. Direct hit, Dan shouted. Their forward shields are down, but the hegemony wasn't helpless. The hive mind ships swarmed toward Earth's defense platforms, their insectoid crews working with perfect coordination. Each ship was small, but there were hundreds of them, and they moved like a single living creature. That's when the Mandari showed what they could do. Tar and her people reached out with their thoughts, not to control the enemy but to confuse them. The perfect coordination of the hive mind began to break down as individual ships started receiving conflicting mental signals. Fascinating, Velter said, her eyes glowing with concentration. Their minds are linked, but the links can be disrupted. They're losing their unity. The tide of battle began to turn, but not in the way anyone expected. As the different refugee species worked together, their abilities started to amplify each other. Zapirian energy made Athathuran phase shifts more powerful. Mandari telepathy helped coordinate Athathuran dimensional attacks. Human adaptability tied it all together. Parker watched in amazement as her ship began to do things that violated every law of physics she knew. They were moving through solid matter, existing in multiple places at once, and channeling energy that seemed to come from the fabric of space itself. Captain Kryol said from her station, "Something wonderful is happening. Our people's gifts are joining together in ways we never imagined." On the main screen, Parker could see other human refugee hybrid ships performing similar miracles. The science vessel Terra Nova, commanded by Paul Johnson, was using combined technologies to repair its own battle damage. Instantly, the defense platform knew Geneva was generating shield bubbles that protected entire sections of space. The void ships, beings of pure energy, wearing mechanical shells, tried to adapt to the new tactics. They began shifting their own energy patterns, attempting to match the refugees' abilities, but they were fighting alone. While the Earth Coalition fought as one, War Commander Thexel of the Asterian fleet opened a communication channel. Her reptilian face filled the screen, scales dark with rage. "What manner of abomination have you created?" she demanded. "These beings should not be able to work together." The prophecies said nothing of this unity. Captain Morrison, now commanding the flagship Unity, responded from the fleet command center. "Maybe your prophecies were wrong, Commander. Maybe the threat you were afraid of was really a promise of something better." "Impossible," Thexel roared. "The cosmic purity doctrine maintains order through separation. Species with reality-altering abilities cannot be allowed to unite. It would mean the end of everything we have built, or the beginning of something better." Morrison replied calmly. The turning point came when Dr. Lewis, working with refugee scientists aboard the research vessel Discovery, achieved something that changed the nature of the battle entirely. They managed to create what he called a reality anchor, a device that stabilized spacetime around Earth's solar system. With spacetime locked in place, the hegemony's weapons became less effective while the refugees' abilities became more powerful. The Athathurans could phase shift more easily, the Zarians could channel more energy, and the Mandari could extend their telepathic range across the entire battlefield. "All hegemony ships, this is Admiral Cross," came the broadcast on all frequencies. "Your weapons are designed to destroy our friends by disrupting the natural forces they work with, but we've learned to stabilize those forces. You can't hurt them anymore." The hegemony fleet began to retreat, but not before War Commander Thexel delivered a final message that chilled everyone who heard it. "You have won this battle, humans, but you have doomed yourselves. The full council will hear of this abomination. Every ship in the hegemony will come to cleanse this system. You cannot stand against the might of 23 species united in purpose as the enemy ships disappeared into hyperspace. Parker felt no sense of victory. They had saved Earth and the refugees, but they had also made an enemy of the entire galactic civilization. Dr. Lewis appeared on the communication screen from his laboratory. Admiral Cross, I've been analyzing the data from the battle. What we accomplished today should have been impossible. The different refugee abilities didn't just work together. They created something entirely new. What do you mean? Cross asked. I mean, we may have accidentally proven the hegemony's worst fears correct. When these abilities combine, they can reshape reality itself. We're not just protecting refugees anymore. We've become the catalyst for something that could change the fundamental nature of existence. Captain Parker looked around her bridge at the mixed crew of humans and refugees. They had fought together, bled together, and won together. But Lewis was right. They had also become something new. So what do we do now? She asked. Admiral Cross was quiet for a long moment. We prepare for the next battle, and we figure out what we're really becoming in the depths of space, beyond the edge of the solar system. Long-range sensors detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. More ships were coming, many more ships. The hegemony was gathering the largest fleet in galactic history, and they were all heading toward Earth. The real war was about to begin. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Taylor stared at the alien data files spread across his desk. 3 weeks had passed since the hegemony's retreat, and his intelligence team had been working around the clock to decode the information they had captured from damaged enemy ships. Colonel, you need to see this, said Dr. Maria Santos, the head of the new Xenoarchaeology department. She walked into his office, carrying a tablet with translated hegemony records. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. What did you find? Taylor asked, though he wasn't sure. He wanted to know the truth about the cosmic purity doctrine. Maria said, sitting down heavily. It's not about maintaining universal stability. It's about preventing something they call the Great Awakening. Taylor leaned forward. Explain. Maria activated the tablet, showing ancient texts that had been translated from dozens of different alien languages. According to these records, there was once a species called the Forerunners. They existed millions of years ago, long before the hegemony formed. The Forerunners could do things that made our refugee friends look ordinary. What happened to them? They were destroyed, Maria said quietly. Not by natural disaster or war between equals. They were systematically hunted down and eliminated by the ancestors of the current hegemony species. Taylor felt sick. Genocide on a scale we can barely imagine. The Forerunners had abilities that transcended physical laws. They could create matter from energy, travel through time, exist in multiple realities simultaneously. According to these files, they were peaceful beings who used their gifts to help other species evolve. So why were they killed? Maria scrolled through more data. Because they represented change. The species that became the hegemony were comfortable with the way things were. They had power, territory, resources. The Forerunners offered to share abilities that would have made all species equal. The future rulers of the galaxy couldn't accept that. Taylor stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the refugee settlement. The distance. Zephyrian crystal spires caught the sunlight while Aetherian phase gardens flickered in and out of visibility. It was beautiful and impossible and absolutely terrifying to those who wanted to control the universe. Theirs. More Maria continued. Before they died, the Forerunners scattered their knowledge and abilities across the galaxy. They hid pieces of their gifts in different species, hoping that someday those pieces would come together again. The refugees, Taylor said, understanding flooding through him. Every species that's come to Earth carries part of the Forerunner legacy, the Zephyrians' energy, manipulation, the Aetherians' dimensional abilities, the Mandaris' consciousness expansion, all of it traces back to the Forerunners. Taylor's communication device buzzed with an urgent message. President Stone was calling an emergency meeting of all department heads as he and Maria made their way to the conference room. Taylor couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to learn something that would change everything once again. The conference room was packed with humanity's best minds. Admiral Cross sat next to Dr. Lewis, while Captain Morrison joined by video link from the orbital defense platform. Representatives from each refugee species were also present, their alien forms adding to the surreal nature of the meeting. President Stone looked tired and worried. I've just received intelligence reports that I need to share with all of you. Dr. Santos, please brief everyone on what you've discovered. Maria repeated her findings about the Forerunners and the true nature of the hegemony's mission. As she spoke, Taylor watched the faces around the room grow more and more concerned. Velter, the Mandari representative, spoke first. When Maria finished, we always wondered why our abilities felt incomplete, like pieces of a larger puzzle. Now we understand. Crystal, the Zephyrian crystal shaper, nodded in agreement. Our legends speak of a time when all species worked together in harmony. We thought they were just stories. Dr. Lewis cleared his throat. If this is true, then the refugees coming to Earth isn't random. They're being drawn here by something deeper than just seeking sanctuary. Which brings us to our immediate problem, President Stone said. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet heading our way, not just hegemony ships this time. They've called in allies from across the galaxy. Admiral Cross activated the main display, showing a tactical overview that made everyone in the room gasp. Hundreds of red dots were moving toward Earth's solar system, representing the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 400 capital ships, Cross said grimly. Thousands of support vessels. They represent 23 different species, including some we've never heard of. The entire hegemony is coming to destroy us. General Robert Kane, the head of Earth's military forces, leaned forward. What are our chances? Honestly, without help, we have no chance at all, Cross admitted. Even with our hybrid technologies and refugee abilities, we're outnumbered 50-1. Then we get help, said Dr. Catherine Moore, the President's chief diplomatic advisor. If the hegemony has been hunting down species with Forerunner abilities for millions of years, there must be others in hiding. Belter's eyes began to glow with concentration. I can reach out with my mind, search for others like us, but it will require enormous energy. Chell immediately volunteered. My people can provide all the energy you need, and we can extend Your telepathic range across multiple dimensions, added Nixara, one of the Athathuran representatives. Taylor watched as the different refugee species began working together. Instinctively, it was exactly what the hegemony feared. Most cooperation between beings with reality-altering abilities. Over the next few days, Velter and her fellow Mendari reached out across the galaxy with telepathic calls for help. The energy requirements were enormous, but the Zephyrians channeled power directly from Earth's sun to fuel the effort. The Athathurans created dimensional amplifiers that let the mental signals reach parallel realities where other refugee species might be hiding. The response was beyond anything they had hoped for. Admiral Captain Johnson reported from his deep space patrol ship, "We're getting responses from species we thought were extinct. The stellar nomads are coming out of the dark matter clouds where they've been hiding. The world's singers are emerging from the galactic core. Even the lifeweavers who can adapt to any environment are leaving their hidden worlds." Dr. Lewis was practically bouncing with excitement. "Do you understand what this means? Every species with forerunner abilities is revealing themselves for the first time. In millions of years, Earth has become the rallying point for the galaxy's hidden peoples." But Taylor felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the full implications. We're not just preparing for a battle anymore, we're starting a galactic civil war. President Stone nodded soberly. "The hegemony will see this as proof that we're the threat they always claimed we were. Every species that answers our call will be marked for destruction. Then we better make sure we win," Morrison said from his command station. "Because if we lose, everyone who trusted us will die." As refugee ships began arriving from across the galaxy, Earth's solar system transformed into something unprecedented. Beings that had been myths and legends worked alongside humans to prepare for the ultimate battle. The stellar nomads, who could travel faster than light without ships, began scouting enemy positions. The world singers established instantaneous communication networks across vast distances. The Lifu weavers started adapting human and refugee technologies to work in ways no one had imagined possible. Dr. Lewis made another breakthrough while working with a group of refugee scientists. The hegemony isn't just afraid of what we can do individually, they're terrified of what happens when forerunner abilities combine and evolve. "What do you mean?" Taylor asked. "I mean, we might be on the verge of becoming something beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. Not just powerful, but fundamentally different. The kind of difference that changes the rules of existence itself." Taylor looked out at the impossible collection of species working together. In Earth's solar system, ships that existed in multiple dimensions worked alongside vessels made of living crystal. Beings of pure energy cooperated with creatures who could reshape matter with their thoughts, and at the center of it all were humans, somehow serving as the catalyst that made it all possible. The hegemony's greatest fear was about to be realized. The question was whether the result would bring salvation or destruction to the galaxy. Admiral Helen Cross stood on the bridge of the Unity, watching the largest space battle in galactic history unfold around her. The hegemony's massive fleet had arrived 2 days ago, bringing 400 warships from 23 different species, but they hadn't expected what was waiting for them. Earth's solar system had become home to over 60 different refugee species, each one carrying fragments of the ancient Forerunner abilities. Ships that could exist in multiple realities fought alongside vessels made of living crystal beings who could travel faster than light without technology worked with creatures that could reshape matter with their thoughts. Status report. Cross commanded Captain Morrison, now serving as her tactical coordinator. Check the battle displays. The enemy is trying to use their standard formation, but they can't adapt to fighting opponents who don't follow the laws of physics. On the main screen, Cross could see Supreme Overlord Kexeth's flagship, massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest human ships. The hegemony leader had come personally to oversee what she called the final cleansing of cosmic divan. Admiral called out Dr. Lewis from the science station. The refugee species are starting to synchronize their abilities without any central coordination. It's like they're remembering something they forgot long ago. Cross watched in amazement as the battle evolved beyond anything anyone had planned. During crystal ships channeled energy through Etherian dimensional rifts, while Mindari telepaths coordinated attacks across multiple realities simultaneously. The stellar nomads moved at impossible speeds, striking enemy ships and disappearing before return fire could reach them. But the most incredible sight was how human crews worked seamlessly with their alien partners on ships throughout the fleet. Humans served as the link between different refugee abilities, somehow making it possible for incompatible technologies to work together. Captain Morrison Cross said, "Activate the Unity Protocol." Morrison hesitated. "Admiral, we've only tested it in simulations. If it fails, we lose anyway," Cross replied. "But if it works, we might save not just Earth, but the entire galaxy." The Unity Protocol was Dr. Lewis's greatest achievement, a way for every refugee species in the fleet to combine their abilities into something greater than the sum of its parts. It required perfect coordination between dozens of different alien technologies, all linked through human-designed control systems. Across the refugee fleet, ships began to glow with impossible colors as the protocol activated. Zaffiran crystals provided the energy foundation, their light visible across multiple dimensions. Etherium phase drivers ensured the effect existed in all realities simultaneously. Mindari telepaths coordinated the actions of thousands of different minds. The Lifeweavers adapted the technology real time to work with each species. Unique biology. Supreme Overlord Kexeth's voice boomed across all communication channels. "What abomination is this? You cannot combine the forbidden arts without destroying yourselves." Admiral Cross replied calmly, "We're not combining anything, Overlord. We're simply remembering what was forgotten." The Unity Protocol reached full activation, and something unprecedented happened. Every ship in the refugee fleet became connected at a fundamental level, not just through communication or coordination, but through the very fabric of space and time itself. Captain Lisa Parker, commanding the Defiant at the heart of the formation, felt the change immediately. "Admiral, my ship is somehow connected to every other vessel in the fleet. I can feel their abilities as if they were my own." Similar reports came from ships throughout the refugee coalition. Human captains found themselves able to channel Zapirian energy manipulation, while alien commanders gained access to human adaptability and tactical thinking. The hegemony fleet, designed to fight individual species with specific abilities, simply couldn't handle opponents who could use every ability simultaneously. Plasma weapons meant to destroy crystal-based ships found their targets, phasing into alternate dimensions. Energy drains designed to stop telepathic species encountered beings who could draw power directly from stars. Impossible. Supreme Overlord Sexeth screamed over the communication system. The cosmic purity doctrine exists to prevent exactly this abomination. Your doctrine was built on fear. Morrison replied from his station. Fear of change, fear of growth, fear of what different peoples could accomplish together. As the battle continued, something even more remarkable began to happen. The combined abilities of the refugee species weren't just working together, they were evolving into something entirely new. Ships began to exist in states that violated every known law of physics, moving through solid matter while remaining perfectly solid themselves, existing in multiple locations while maintaining single identities. Dr. Lewis monitored the changes with growing amazement. Admiral, the refugee abilities aren't just combining, they're creating new possibilities that never existed before. We're witnessing the birth of entirely new forms of existence, but the most incredible moment came when Captain Morrison made a decision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Instead of destroying the hegemony fleet, he chose to transform it. All refugee species, focus your combined abilities on the enemy ships. Morrison commanded, but don't destroy them. Change them. The Unity Protocol reached its ultimate expression as every refugee ability focused on the hegemony fleet simultaneously. But instead of weapons of destruction, they became tools of transformation. Zapirian energy conversion systems turned weapon arrays into environmental processors. Etherium dimensional technology converted armor plating into habitat modules. Mendari consciousness manipulation reprogrammed military computers for exploration and diplomacy. In minutes, the largest war fleet in galactic history became the largest humanitarian expedition ever assembled. Supreme Overlord Sexeth found herself aboard what had been her flagship, but was now something completely different. Her weapons were gone, replaced by systems designed to heal wounded worlds. Her army had become a crew of explorers and diplomats. How is this possible? She demanded over the communication system. Morrison's reply was gentle but firm. You spent so long fearing what we might do with these gifts that you never considered what we might choose to do with them. We chose to help instead of harm, added Admiral Cross, to build instead of destroy, to include instead of exclude. As the transformation completed, something beautiful happened throughout the solar system. Ships that had come to make war found themselves equipped for peace. Soldiers trained for battle discovered their vessels were now designed for healing and exploration. The fear and hatred that had driven the hegemony for thousands of years simply had no place in ships redesigned for cooperation and understanding. Dr. Lewis made one final discovery as the Unity Protocol stabilized. Admiral, I understand now what the Forerunners were trying to create, not weapons or tools of conquest, but the ability to transform conflict into cooperation, hatred into understanding. Over the following months, Earth became the center of a transformation that spread throughout the galaxy. Former hegemony worlds requested integration into the new alliance. Species that had hidden their abilities for millions of years emerged from the shadows. Planets that had been stripped of resources were restored using the combined abilities of dozens of species working in harmony. Captain Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, stood in the observation lounge of New Geneva Station, Earth's first orbital diplomatic center. Around him worked beings from over 100 species, all contributing their unique gifts to build something the galaxy had never seen. Dr. Patricia Ward, now Director of Galactic Health Services, had developed medical techniques that combined knowledge from 47 different species. Ambassador Stone led diplomatic missions to establish contact with civilizations that had been considered too dangerous to approach. The galaxy was healing from millions of years of enforced separation. Any regrets, Admiral? Asked Dr. Lewis, joining Morrison at the observation window. Morrison watched an Athethurian phase dancer teaching human children how to exist in multiple dimensions, while a Xerian crystal singer showed them how to channel starlight into art. It was impossible and beautiful and absolutely right. Only one, Morrison replied, that it took so long for someone to realize that our differences make us stronger, not weaker. The galaxy had rejected its own children out of fear, but humanity had opened its arms, and in doing so had helped create something greater than anyone had ever imagined possible. The age of separation was ending, and the age of unity had begun.